pro wrestling.
I don't know.
That might not make sense now, but will make sense later. And you have to, as fans, sometimes have faith in the process. So maybe having the match against Hechicero takes your mind, your thought away from MJF being involved in anything big. I'm not feeling great. I'm not 110%. I shouldn't be in the world title picture. I'm having a match against Hechicero, which is definitely not a main event quality match. Yes, I'm going to beat him. I'm in my backyard. Still not a highly visible match. Maybe they're slow playing it for tonight.
Yeah, we'll see, because that's going to answer a lot of questions. That's why Bully, busted open after dark tonight. This episode of Dynamite tonight is a big one because it's going to have major implications for what we're going to see at All In at Wembley. All right, when we come back, I want to dive in to that Mercedes-Benz celebration and the return of Britt Baker. We'll do that when Tommy, Bully, and I return right here on Busted Open.
At the fights, Teofimo Lopez is certainly one of the top 140.
What's up, Brainless Creations? Right now, holding to be on with Busted Open.
Doesn't help his profile at all.
They were talking who should be the wild card tonight on Dynamite. Everyone at Busted Open is feeling it should be MJF. That MJF should go on to Wembley. I don't know. I'm not. Me and Joe will get into this later on tonight. But I personally don't think MJF should go on to main event Wembley. Bully thought so. Tommy thought so. LaGreca thought so. I don't think so. They also all seem to be in agreement that the wild card tonight on Dynamite versus Jeff Jarrett should be the person who goes on to win the whole thing. I'm not digging that either. I don't think that the wild card just needs to introduce somebody. I don't know if you guys seen the post yesterday where I spoiled it with my idea, and I don't think Joe's seen it. So, and Joe's not on this morning. We're both working, but he's a little bit more focused. I think it's going to be Jinder. I think it's Jinder Mahal. I think that's the wild card against Jeff Jarrett. I think the Elite introduce him for being kind of anti-Tony Khan on social media, and it can be their kind of dig at Tony and establish themselves as the EVPs are running things. I think there's a story there. I don't know. What do you guys think? Who do you guys see being the wild card? And again, me and Joe talk about this later. We have Mark the Monster on. It'll probably be around 6 o'clock tonight. But I want to talk to the guys on Busted Open. This idea, see what they think. But man, they'll leave you hanging on hold for a while. I get annoyed with that at times. I'm not a patient man. It's not my thing. So Ricochet's contract is up. I don't know where he's at as far as a non-compete. It's probably a 90-day non-compete. I don't think Ricochet is a real option to be the wild card. That was something that they spitballed on Busted Open, but I don't think he's free agent yet. I think he's contract's up. He's certainly not being used on TV going forward. That doesn't mean he won't re-sign, though. He could sign a new deal, but he could explore things to give himself that option to try and make some more money. I don't know. I think there's a great story you can play out with Ricochet in AEW. Man, so I don't know. I read that also, but I feel like if someone could pop up somewhere else, we would see folks do that more. But man, it might be. Those contracts are weird. And they tried to place it. They tried to pass a law that they couldn't have non-competes in contracts. So, who knows? Who knows? It'd be cool because you have the story with him and Will, right? Him and Will Ospreay have a story. Will wants him there. I think it would be the time to turn Ricochet heel. Ricochet shows up with Will Ospreay. Hey, you guys wanted me here? I'm here, but I'm here to step on you, not step alongside you. I would align him with Shane Taylor Promotions. That's where I put Ricochet. Heel faction. They're doing good things. He would do well in a group to have some other folks do some talking. Ricochet's not terrible on the mic, but he's not known for his promos, right? Not what Ricochet's known for.
Back here on Busted Open, Dave LaGreca, Booker, Tommy Dreamer, getting you ready
Let's see.
for AEW.
Let's see what the Busted Open guys go on about. We'll see.
From Mercedes Bonet. And we're also going to hear from Dr. Britt Baker. First and foremost, Tommy, you know.
We'll see. If he's not going to the lines soon, I'm gonna drop him and just me and Joe will just talk about this stuff later on tonight. But
cheers and boos for Mercedes when she came out on Sunday. But probably about halfway through that match, that 11,000.
yeah, he's hitting on Mercedes, getting booed.
And then I think a moment that they wanted.
I don't know.
Like an emotional moment.
It's one of those interesting things with AEW fan base. They want someone there, and then once they're there, they boo them. I don't know. I don't get it.
It was shrouded with boos from that Long Island crowd. And then you get the return of Dr. Britt Baker and the pop that you heard, which probably was either first or second to the response that Will Ospreay got in Long Island on Sunday. And that's including MJF.
Me and Joe talked a little bit about that on Monday.
I think a lot of the fans were disappointed
About Mercedes getting booed and what he thought. I personally could care less. I think she's a clear heel in AEW. It's whatever. Britt Baker's the homegrown talent. She's going to be the babyface in the program. That's easy peasy.
There's also the Boston Celtics Knicks factor that went into there.
Yeah.
But
So I don't think the Boston Celtics Knicks factor was a factor.
Tommy, I got to jump in here for a second because I was having discussions too on this. All right, now I know there were chants about the Celtics and the Knicks, but just to
Wrestling
make it
fans
clear,
don't care about the Celtics and the Knicks. Am I right? Like that's nonsense.
Was trying to make the excuse that the fans were booing Mercedes because she's from Boston and they're in New York. They were making those chants because they wanted to get under Mercedes' skin. They weren't booing. They weren't booing Mercedes because she happens to be from Boston and she's in New York. They were doing that to get
right.
under
Yeah,
her
that's an
skin.
absolute
They were
stretch.
trying to
Thank you,
aggravate
Brainless Creation, being in there. Like, yeah, 100%. That's a stretch of the imagination. That's Excalibur made the comments.
I agree. But
Tommy Dreamer's seconding that.
She was there.
I've been a wrestling fan my whole life. I've never watched an NBA game. That doesn't. Those things don't correlate. It's not like she was out there in a Boston Celtics jersey.
I agree in your
That's not what was happening.
I don't think they were trying to cover it up a little bit, but it's still a negative chant towards you. And when they hate you
what's up,
so
Joe?
much that they're going to bring up something that
Figured you was
really
working.
doesn't pretend to you. It's the opposite of if they love something so much. We want Roman.
I'm on hold,
They're
Joe.
chanting for "We want Roman" during a CM.
Tell them my idea. Jinder Mahal is the wild card.
These are things.
Slow day, yeah, slow day for me too.
Because there's a tie, right? But I would go all in on Mercedes.
Letting everybody know we got Brainless Creations here, Joe. Let them know we're gonna talk. Me and you gonna talk a little bit more about the wild card later on tonight.
She was a pillar, and you're.
Everyone knows you think Jeff Jarrett should win the whole thing.
Go against
Bully Ray agreed with you earlier this week on Busted Open.
Very, very interesting matchup. I saved that for Wembley.
I don't think that'll happen, but I understand. I still think you're nuts for thinking that's gonna happen. I think Bully Ray's nuts for thinking it'll happen. Just don't. I don't know.
Like you, and we're really
You think the wild card someone Jeff Jarrett knows? All right, we'll get to that later on tonight.
That's why tonight's important as well, because I'm very interested in how Mercedes talks to the crowd.
I think it's Jinder Mahal.
And I'm very interested in what Dr. Britt Baker has
That's
to
my
say
thoughts, Joe.
to the crowd tonight.
In order for this,
We'll unpack it as to why I think it's Jinder later, but I think it's Jinder.
should work the way I talked about it working on Monday with you and Mark. Is Mercedes?
Nah, Joe, you're crazy. You're a crazy man for thinking Jeff Jarrett should compete for the AEW World Championship, Joe.
Fall in love
Crazy.
with the fact that she is going to be the heel here. She has to embrace it. I put up a tweet the other day called "Embrace the Hate." Any heel worth their salt knows that you have to embrace the hate. Fall in love with hatred.
Bubba says any
Been in love
heel
with
should
hatred
embrace
my
the
entire
hate
career.
in wrestling, and Mercedes should be a heel. I mean, you give her 2 belts, she kind of has to be a heel champ, right?
Has to embrace being the babyface.
How often are you babyface double champ? Not really something you see that often, right?
Britt Baker is not a heel. If I'm an AEW fan,
Thank you, Brainless Creations. We'll be back on later on tonight, probably around 6-ish. I'll schedule a live show. That way you know what's going on. But yeah, we'll be on. We'll preview AEW Dynamite. We'll talk about this wild card situation. We'll see you later on, man.
Do you want to boo Dr. Britt Baker?
Britt Baker came out the other night on that stage, looked amazing, beautiful, pretty, hot.
Yeah, I do not think they're getting to me anytime soon. And sitting on hold with these guys drives me nuts.
In her gear, beautiful hair, flowing locks, a la Farrah Fawcett.
And I really don't need to hear about Bubba Ray going on and on about
Slamming body.
apparently him being in love with Dr. Britt Baker. Could really care less about that. Joe, figure out who you think that wild card's going to be. We'll talk about that later on tonight. Everyone will check this out. Quick morning show. Tried to get on Busted Open. I'm not going to sit on hold for those guys forever. We got our own show to plan for. Right? We can't just give them all of our content. Thank you, everyone. Check this out. Don't say the F word. Check out our fundraiser, Friends of Lorraine County Dog Kennel. Joe's got 2 people in mind of who he thinks the wild card is. I've already spilled the beans on who I think it is. So join us later on tonight, live on Instagram. Still raising money for Friends of Lorraine County Dog Kennel. They are full. So if you know anyone, can foster a dog, needs a dog in their life, or just has some money they can help get these dogs supplies they need, please donate. Thank you guys. Be back later on.